Okay, I'm live. All right. Oh, there's 5 people here. That's exciting. Hopefully I'm not freezing like I'm seeing myself do here, but I'm Dana K. White, and this is a live Q&A, which means there's going to be a lot of ums, and it's not going to be edited. So if you can't handle it, watch something else, okay? All right. So let's see here. I have a question. My hair is still a little bit wet. Yeah, curly hair problems. Anyway, I have some questions that have been answered in the form. If you would like to ask questions for a future live, you can find the link to that form in the description of this video. Okay, so I'm going to answer some questions there. I may not be able to go quite as long today as I have been lately, but I am trying to do this once a week. So here we go. All right. So, I usually do this on my phone. That's what I do. What am I doing differently here? All right. So let me get to some of these. I just want to remind y'all that my new book, Organizing for the Rest of Us, is out wherever books are sold. So you can go and get you one. I'm hearing lots of people who are experiencing great success, having like things that they've heard me say before, but they're like, oh, okay, it's sinking in now with that. So I love hearing that because that's my book, baby, and it makes it exciting that it is being used. So, okay, let me, that is not what I thought I was going to be doing. Question and answers. Oh my goodness. Sorry, y'all. Get to my ones. Okay, there we go. I have them color coded. All right. Here's the question. Here's the first question. Thank you. I'm not sure if we're done having children, so I'm keeping baby clothes. Any advice for keeping a reasonable amount? I have multiple containers, so do I need to first decide on my container numbers and sizes? Okay, so you're thinking along the right lines, but remember that the container concept is that the container decides how much of something you can keep, which frees you from all these difficult decisions, okay? Because I put my favorite ones in there first. Whatever doesn't fit, that's what has to go. The container makes the decision. But also with this, you said, do I first need to decide how big of a container and how many? What you need to do is look at the home that you have and say, what space do I have in this home that is not being used for right now life, for the people who are living in it right now? What space do I have that I can devote to keeping baby clothes? Okay, because it's a legitimate thing, right? I mean, like, you probably going to have more kids, and so you want to keep some of those clothes. It totally makes sense. But you determine according to the space that you have to devote to that. So what that means is you can't just keep everything. I mean, you can, obviously it's your house, but you can't just keep everything and your living room be stacked high with boxes of baby clothes, which sounds like I'm being ridiculous, except that's kind of how many baby clothes I had. Like that was me when I was in that phase of life before I understood the container concept and had really been understanding that my house was out of control because I had too much stuff. So now that I understand that, so it's like, okay, you don't want it to be in your living room. Your living room's for living. So what space do you have? Do you have a closet? Do you have garage? Whatever. And then according to the space that you have that's not going to take up room that you need for right now living, then what containers, bins, boxes, whatever, will fit in that space easily, get toably, meaning like you'll be able to access them when you need to. It's not something you're going to be tripping over all the time. It's not going to hurt your right now life that you do need to be living in this space. Determine the size of the container according to the container that is your house, the space that you have to put that container in. And then that takes away the math. Okay. When you start getting into math, that's where I would get in trouble. And that was where I would want to like figure it all out before I got started. Instead, just say, this is the space I have. This is the size of container that will fit in there. This is the size of container I have. This determines how many baby clothes I can keep for the next time. And just having a limited space, just having that container makes everything look different. Okay. So all these baby clothes that you have that you are going to save for the next one, this is the space that I have. I'm not going to feel guilty about storing them because I have this space available to do that. I put my favorite ones in there first. And when you do it that way, instead of just scooping and dumping, which is what I used to do. Like, well, I got to keep everything because, what if? Instead, it's like all of a sudden the ones that are stained are the ones that those snaps never actually stayed snapped and it always drove me crazy. Or those, oh, that's right, the elastic is gone on whatever. All those type things just naturally reveal themselves as this item not being container worthy. Just the fact that you have a limited space makes the stuff that you could keep look different. Okay. So yeah, the answer to your question is yes, determine what size of the container, but determine that according to the space that you have in your home for putting that container in. Okay. Let's see. Next question. What is the order of decluttering you recommend? Knowing, number one, my house is not a project. Number two, follow the visibility rule. Is there any way to make a plan ahead of time? Okay. So this makes me laugh because this is me. Like, this is me. I'd like to know how things are going to go, and something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because it's just come up, and not just in this question, but like in lots of questions and lots of conversations that I'm having with people, is this desire to be able to see into the future and know how things are going to play out. Okay. I get it. Like, there's that thing of, well, if I don't know how this is going to play out, then what if I start in a way that's wrong? Or how am I supposed to know what to do now if I don't know the full game plan down the road? Except that's the mentality that was getting me in trouble. We talk a lot around here about making your goal for the space to be better. Well, better is really not a plan. I mean, and I know it's hard for those of us who want to plan it, but better is not a plan. Better is the goal that can literally be accomplished in 30 seconds by throwing stuff away. And so going, okay, I want the big plan, but I know that the real thing that's going to move me forward is having the goal of better. And then let's look at that question this way. So that your house is not a project and to follow the visibility rule. Is there any way to make a plan ahead of time? The plan is to follow the visibility rule. The plan is to follow the 5-step decluttering process, which is in Decluttering at the Speed of Life, which I have podcasts where I've gone through it, which is in Organizing at the Speed of Life. No, Organizing for the Rest of Us. That's sorry, I forget my own book names. But like that 5-step process is the plan. We want it to be the plan of how everything's going to look when we're done. And yet that oftentimes is more organizing, right? Is like, okay, I need to have a plan of how everything's going to fit, how everything's going to look, what kind of containers I'm going to use. And in reality, you have to declutter before you can organize. I mean, it's just fact. It is like physics, maybe, I don't know. But it is reality that you have to declutter. They're not the same thing. You have to declutter before you organize. And for me, decluttering ended up being the thing I needed to do. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this space is functional now. I'm good. So just because I don't have excess stuff in it. And so the plan is to follow the 5-step process, starting in the most visible space. And then by starting in the most visible space and going through that 5-step process, then you're going to make the real progress in your house. Okay. Where instead, if you want to list out rooms according to visibility, great. Like maybe for you, if you really want this plan, go through the 14 days to opening your front door to guests. That's 14 videos I did November 1st through 14th. Go through that. That's a plan. But that is not how to actually, truly, really change my house for the long haul. Instead, I changed my house for the long haul by zeroing in, starting with visible spaces, and getting stuff out that didn't need to be in my house. Okay. Accepting the realities of the space that I have. Okay. Which wasn't really even possible for me to do until I had the excess out. The make it fit, the container concept, implementing that is the last step of my decluttering process. Before I ever get to that, I need to get the excess out because my brain cannot wrap around embracing the the realities of the space that I'm in until the stuff that never should have been there, the trash, the easy stuff, the clutter, all those things is gone. And once that's gone, going through that process, each step of the way opens my eyes to the realities of the space and gets me ready for the next step. Okay. So I know that desire to want to know the plan. The plan is to make it better. The plan is to follow the process that, you know, maybe isn't as fancy as you wanted it to be, but is going to get you there in a better way. So like there is this podcast I listened to a long time ago, and I joke with my kids all the time because it's like a sports concept. I don't remember which team it was, but their big thing was trust the process. It's like they were doing things that were like, what? But the whole thing like was trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. Trust the process. Like that's the plan, is to trust the process. Start with the visible spaces. It really does help you build decluttering momentum. It really does increase your decluttering energy, which makes you more willing to keep going. Follow those 5 steps. The first step, if all you do is throw away trash, it really does make the space better. You know what I mean? So, okay. When kids leave their items on the table or island and need to be put away, but the kids aren't available at that exact moment, do I put their items in a basket that I have outside their door? Or is that moving misplaced stuff from one spot to another? Or what do I do with their things? Okay, so here, I'm going to tell you where I had to come with this one. All right. So, I mean, being a mom is like, that was my life dream. I mean, like, just always want to be a mom. Like, it's my favorite thing. I love being a mom. I want to be a really good mom. Right. And so, when I was in the beginning phases of this, one of the things I had to realize that I had been doing that had not worked and had probably made things more difficult was that, okay, which was and you're even saying, you're taking it to a basket in front of their room, and that's, you do whatever works for you. The key for it here is, are you going to remember to have them put those things away? Okay. That is great. If you will remember, if that's what you want to do, and you'll be like, you're the type of person who's like 5-minute pickup. Oh, everybody go and, deal with the baskets that are in front of your room of things that I've put there or whatever. That's great. It really comes down to what works within your personality. My problem with that was I would see my kids' stuff, scattered around or whatever. They weren't there right now. And I would tell myself, okay, Dana, tonight. Okay, don't forget. I might put an alarm on my phone, whatever. The alarm would go off at some time when we were doing something completely different, and I would turn it off and never think about it again. And I wouldn't remember to then do the 5-minute pickup with my kids while they were home, because it just wasn't natural to me. So what I had to decide, which is really frustrating and hard and made me feel like, ugh, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing as mom, is I had to say, okay, and I'm talking about my 5-minute pickup here, because that's how I solve issues like things being in the wrong place, So I was like, I need to do my own 5-minute pickup, and I'm going to start in my visible areas. And what I found, and not worry about the kids aren't here right now. We'll do another 5-minute pickup when they're home. There is always enough stuff for us to do multiple 5-minute pickups. Like, I was never doing everything for them by doing a 5-minute pickup during the day and then them not have, it was never that they then didn't have anything to do at night. Okay. Like, there was always that. And the more I did a 5-minute pickup, whenever it occurred to me, very purposefully setting my timer, picking up, the more I did that, the more likely I was to think to do a 5-minute pickup when they were actually around. You see what I'm saying? So it really comes down to you figuring out what you actually will be able to remember to do. Okay. What actually works for you. So for me, that's where I had to come in, because the problem was I would not do it, not think of it when they were home, think of it the next day when it was just me at home, and be like, oh my goodness. And then I was more discouraged, and I was like, no, I've really got to do it tonight. And then I would forget again that night. And so, but the more I did pickups, the more I thought to do pickups. Okay. That's how I look at it. All right. And I guess your question was, do I put it in those baskets? That's really just up to you. Like, is that going to be something that just piles and piles and piles and never actually gets done? Well, then I think you need to go, put it up. Boy, I'm shaking my desk. Then yeah, I would go ahead and put it in there. If it is something that in your family, yes, we actually do remember, oh, let's do the 5-minute pickup. Everybody put away their baskets worth of stuff. Then great, do that. Okay. I go through cycles of decluttering, deep cleaning, patting myself on the back, taking pictures, bragging about my progress to people who know me, and enjoying the space, and then recluttering those spaces. I can't figure out how it happens. And I'm not talking about a small space. I mean, like my entire dining room. What is wrong with me? How can I just learn to be comfortable in uncluttered, clean spaces? Okay, so I am a master reclutterer. Anytime when I'm not focused on decluttering, clutter just appears. I mean, so I get it. Yeah. Like anybody who says, oh, I decluttered, and well, no, of course it's not recluttered. I'm like, well, then I can't relate. So here's what I'm gonna say about that. A couple things here. 5-minute pickups are key to preventing the reappearance of clutter. Okay. Am I freezing? Because I look super frozen there for a second. 5-minute pickups are the key to preventing the reappearance of clutter. Okay. Daily tasks are made easier by decluttering, and decluttering is maintained by daily tasks. Okay. So remember, those two things just are very go together-y. So that's key right there, 5-minute pickups. But the other thing too is the way that I do the visibility rules, which I talk a lot more in depth about this in all different places. But you start in a visible space, the most visible space. Okay. So because you got to start somewhere, right? So start at your front door, where people would be coming in, so that at the end of the day, you've spent decluttering and you're not embarrassed still to open the front door. If someone shows up unexpectedly, start in that space, and then stick with the visibility rule the next time you're inspired to declutter, which is probably going to be pretty soon, because you've seen that progress and it inspires you to keep going. Okay. And so when you get inspired to keep going, go back to that same space that you decluttered last week or 2 weeks ago. All right. It can feel like, oh my word, I'm never going to make any progress that way. But that's actually how you do ultimately make real progress. Because what would happen with me is it would be great. And I've always said, I can see totally messy and I can see perfectly clean, but I don't see what's happening in between. Okay. This is how I prevent what's happening in between. Okay. So what I do is I go back to that space. The next time I'm inspired to declutter, I can feel very defeated, because I'm like, I can't believe there's stuff here again. Oh my goodness. Why am I having to come back to this space? Well, in reality, if it's only been a week or two, where maybe before it was months or a year worth of stuff, this time I still go through the 5-step process, because that's what I have to do to keep myself on task. I start with the trash. I pull out the trash. I deal with the easy stuff, which is the stuff that just got dropped and dumped there. And I take it to its easy established home. But I'm usually done after the first 2 steps. And I'm like, oh, the space wasn't actually cluttered the way that it was before, like things that were homeless. It was just messy. Okay. But my brain was like, oh my goodness, it's cluttered again. And then it just gets more and more cluttered and more cluttered the longer I don't deal with it. And then it does turn into real clutter again. So I'm saying, I go back there, those first 2 steps, it's back to its thing. And where it before took maybe 2 hours to deal with that space, when I go back and do it again, it only takes 5 minutes, because I'm like, oh, okay. And then it's back to its actual decluttered state, because I got rid of, the trash and the easy stuff. And then I move to the next space, spend however long I need to, a couple hours there, really truly declutter, really go through the 5-step process. And then my house is looking even better, and I'm inspired to declutter again even sooner. I go back to the very first place, and I'm done there in 2 or 3 minutes, because now that I've re-decluttered in there, then I'm a little more aware of what's being dropped in there because I've gone back again. So that one's done in 2 or 3 minutes. The second space is done in 5 minutes. And then I move to the next space and I really put a lot of time in. Okay. So that's a really short version of what I've talked a lot about. I think there's a podcast called Visibility, where I go through this, like it's all, that is the key to gaining real momentum and also solving, this question that you just asked. Okay. And when asking, where would I look for this first? My instinct is often 2 or 3 different places. Okay. And then you went on to say, because I'm always starting new systems and have things in different places in my home and garage. Okay. I want you to stop thinking about the systems that you last created and just literally go with the instinct of the first place that comes in your mind. Okay. Remember, if you are okay, this or this or this, you're analyzing. We're not going to analyze here. It's literally the instinct of the first place where you would look. That's where it needs to go. Okay. And then another part of that question was, what if you live with others and they have different answers for where would I look for this first? She's saying her fiance often moves things where he thinks that they go. It's remember that I ultimately default to who's the person who actually uses it, who is the person who looks for it the most often, who's the person that would get asked before even somebody looked for it, where is the such and such? That's who decides where that goes. And also remember that if it's something you use and it's something he uses, a lot of times it's okay to have 2. It's okay to have 2 pairs of scissors, to whatever, within reason, obviously, because we have the container concept and all that kind of stuff. But, if you use a hammer pretty often for the things that you do, and he uses a hammer pretty often, y'all look for him in 2 different places, you can have 2 hammers, so kind of go along with that. But usually I just default to, if it's his stuff that he is specifically using and looking for, then, it would be his answer to that. So, okay, I am going to answer a couple of questions here. I don't have much time. Let's see. How do you deal with clutter sitting around that doesn't have a place to go because of bad organization, but I still need to keep it? It's paper clutter. Why doesn't it show me the whole thing? It's paper clutter for school. Okay. So you determine the place for something to go according to where you would look for it first, which means where's the first place where you would look for these papers, but if the dining room table wasn't covered in paper or the kitchen counter wasn't covered in paper. Okay, so we're taking those out of the equation and saying, where would I look first? And that's where it's going to go. And then you take it there right now. And as you find more school papers that are randomly sitting around because you were like, I'm going to set this here so I don't forget. And then it kind of just morphs into this big pile. As you're working on the decluttering, things are going to the place where you look for it first. And that's how you establish those homes. What's that? Let's see. What's the easier way to actually donate stuff? Like, I don't even know where to go. I always throw stuff out. So, really, that's one of those questions that's hard for me to answer because it is so different like my friend who lives 30 minutes away from me can have a completely different situation than me in that, on that subject. So, my best advice for you, you're on the internet right now, okay, which means you have some sort of internet access. The best thing I think for figuring out where to donate stuff is ask people that who live in your area. Maybe it's a group text to people, and remember that people whose houses are always under control, they're constantly getting rid of their stuff, and so they're not going to think it's weird that you're asking where to get rid of stuff. But or a Facebook post or an Instagram post and say, hey, local friends, I am looking for, what's your favorite place to donate? Is there anybody around here who picks up donations? And my defining thing is that they have to take everything. Like I'm not going to sort. There are some places that only take clothes, or some places don't take toys, or some places don't take whatever. And I'm like, I will drive a little farther to get to the places that don't make me sort things out, just because for my personality, that makes it easier for me, because I used to sort everything and then nothing ever left because I had all these great ideal places where stuff was supposed to go. So instead I'm like, whoever will take all of it, that's who gets it. Okay. All right. I am going to, Okay, so Julie asked, am I the only person who has trouble with figuring out where would I look for this first? Watch last week's video, not a live one, but my video that came out last Friday. And I answered a bunch of questions all around the where would I look for this first decluttering question. Okay, like helping you kind of work through those things. All right, it's been fun. I'm sorry that I couldn't stay on for too long, but I will see y'all later.